Welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Zayas. I'm going to jump right into this episode. This weekend, we have a very, very good card in Florida on ESPN Plus. Everyone's talking about the return of the monster, Edgar Berlanga Jr. He's going to take on Demon Nicholson. Now, at first, you may not know Demon Nicholson, but this is by far the hardest test of Edgar Berlanga's career. Evidently, Demon Nicholson is recovering from a very, very hard health issue. His condition really was rough, and he is returning from kidney failure. Now, if you know, the kidneys are pretty important. They filter out the blood and do other various things. So if your kidneys are not in good shape, you're not going to be a very good boxer. Now, I don't know if Demon Nicholson has enough to provide Edgar Berlanga enough trouble to beat him, but I am very interested in this fight. Everyone knows the monster, Edgar Berlanga, is on a vicious knockout streak. He's knocked out every single one of his opponents in the first round. And right now, I'm not going to lie to you, it's quite a ridiculous feat. We haven't seen it in what seems like years or in history, honestly. I mean, someone does have more knockouts than him, but it looks like he's on path to become the man with the record. However, I do wish for Edgar and his career that, sure, go for the knockout first round, but I think it would be wise to start getting some rounds in. Edgar Berlanga is becoming a very, very popular fighter, and I think sooner rather than later they want to put him in with someone that's going to actually be of relevance. The Canelos of the world, the Daniel Jacobs of the world. Now he's getting mentioned with those guys. And when you fight those guys, you're going to need rounds in the bank because you're not going to knock them out in the first round. Once you start fighting the better guys, again, you need to have the rounds in the bank. You need to have that experience because these guys won't just fall down and get knocked out in the first round. Maybe he's that special, who knows? But I'm pretty sure that when you put him in with the better guys, they're going to survive past the first round. And that's not a knock on Edgar. Look, Edgar Berlanga, he's doing what he has to do. He's beating the guys that are in front of him and Top Rank, Bob Arum. They know how to promote a fighter. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. They know how to get you to that tipping point where people know you. But the issues seem to come once you become a big star and you want to start making more money and you're kind of asking for more, then the issues go on. So I can't sit here and say that Top Rank isn't a good promotional company. They'll give you a platform, but once you become a big star, you kind of outgrow Top Rank, in my opinion. But that's not a knock on Top Rank, right? But Demon Nicholson is a formidable opponent. He has fights with a bunch of different guys, and he's only been knocked out by the best of the best. Jesse Hart, who has been in fights with really good fighters, beat him. And there's no shame in losing to Jesse Hart. I'm not sitting here and saying that Demon Nicholson is top. But who knows? Maybe he can put it together, give Edgar some trouble, or the unlikely possibility that he beats Edgar, resurrect his career. Maybe the kidney issues kind of hindered him tremendously and he couldn't really come back. So I expect this fight to actually go beyond the first round. And I think it's going to be a good fight for Edgar in terms of development. But I do expect Edgar to take care of business. The guy has tremendous power. Funny story. A couple years ago, I remember speaking to Edgar's dad. His name's Edgar Berlanga, and he was telling me about his son and like he expected him to be this champion, etc. Because he knew I was a boxing trainer. And at first, I looked at him and I'm like, okay, everyone thinks their son is like going to be the next big prospect, or it goes on and on. Baseball, basketball, your kid starts young, they're pretty good, and then they either get into something else or they kind of fall off. But upon talking to him, I was like, okay. So I started to watch his amateur career, follow him on the amateur circuit over here in New York, and the kid could box. He has a tremendous amateur pedigree, has a lot of amateur fights. And then he made the transition to the professional ranks. And that's when you saw a shift in his philosophy. Edgar Berlanga no longer wanted to be the flight footed, kind of moving around, give tricky movement, be cute with angles, etc. He actually decided to sit down and punch. And the kid has tremendous power. Andre Rozier got added to the camp to kind of add a more experienced, polished fighter. He's a very prominent trainer in New York, and Andre Rozier is now in charge of the career. And you're seeing that Edgar is trying to learn. He's actually trying to pull Edgar back to actually get rounds in and make him and develop him into a better boxer just to get that experience because he knows that when he fights the upper echelon of fighters, it's not going to be one round. You're not going to knock out the Canelos of the world, the Demetrius Andrades of the world, and in one round, it's just not what happens. They have experience. They know how to deal with power, and you can neutralize power with experience. So, no, no knock on Edgar. I actually hope go for the first round knockout, try to keep the streak alive. It'll be fun to keep talking about it. But in terms of overall development and future, I think it'll be wise just to get some rounds in the bank, try some stuff so you could add some tools to your toolbox. So I expect Edgar Berlanga to win, but I do wish him to get some rounds. And I do think Demon Nicholson, the inspired and the man out of Baltimore, Maryland, with a very good trainer in Calvin Ford, he's going to come with a good game plan. I think he's going to try to make Edgar get out of that first round and make him doubt his power and maybe expose certain things about Edgar. Who knows? But I do expect Edgar to get the job done. Another fight that I'm really, really excited for is Josue Vargas, another prominent prospect out of Puerto Rico and New York. He is the goods. He's a lefty, tricky, has some good angles. From time to time in other fights, you've seen some flaws in Josue Vargas. He likes to throw combinations, and sometimes he likes to stay in too long, gets a little greedy, and gets hit with some shots. For Christ's sakes, he got hit with the right hand and knocked this tooth out in one of his fights. And, he's a tough kid. But the one thing about Josue Vargas you got to give him credit for is he trains with a lot of good sparring partners and a lot of good fighters. He was a main staple in that Teofimo Lopez training camp for Lomachenko. You've seen him spar with the likes of Tevin Farmer, who's trained by Coach Anthony, and there's another trainer that Coach Anthony works with for Tevin Farmer. But you see that they're working together, and you see that he's getting good looks for a southpaw. He's fighting a southpaw in, I got you guys right now, in Willie Shaw. Willie Shaw, pretty good fighter. He has a pretty good pedigree, in my opinion. He could switch. He's tricky. And I think him and Josue Vargas are going to be a very, very good fight. And it's going to be another test for Josue Vargas. If Josue Vargas can get in there and get this kid out, Willie Shaw, then I think at 140, Josue Vargas is entering the conversation of one of the top 140 pounders in the super lightweight division. So I hope Josue Vargas goes out there, gives a boxing lesson, and really shows some of the things he's been working with. You see that he's been working with Coach Anthony, who trains Tevin Farmer. So I'm sure they've been working on little things here and there. But I know Josue Vargas' trainers out of New York as well, and he's a pretty good trainer. So I expect Josue Vargas to make the adjustments and maybe show out in this fight to keep his young, promising career going. And we love our Puerto Rican fighters. I'm Puerto Rican myself, so I kind of have a hometown bias, but I do see flaws in Josue Vargas, but I hope he puts it together because look, every fighter when they're developing is going to have holes in their game. And that's part of the fun of this. As a trainer, I know people think I'm a little critical, especially like the Andrades and the Charlos of the world, etc. But my job as a trainer is to look at holes in games and see how things can be improved or how to exploit it. So I'm not sitting here trying to hate on the kid. He's a really, really young fighter, and I do look forward to him developing, and Edgar as well. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on one more fight that I find very interesting, and it's a prospect watch. Is a kid out of Florida in Zander Zayas. He's in that sweatboxing gym family, and this kid is the goods. When I sit here and tell you he's a tall welterweight, very, very good jab, very good pressure, and he could box on his back foot. And I really look forward to seeing him develop. He's going to be in action. I expect him to take care of business, but be on the lookout for Zander Zayas. He's in the welterweight division. We have a lot of hot prospects in the welter division. You already know about Jaron Ennis. You got Ortiz. You have the blue blood, top of the top, the Terrence Crawfords of the world, the Errol Spences of the world. Then you got the Danny Garcias. That division is deep, 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 deep. And I expect Xander Zayas in a couple years, if he keeps down this road, to be one of the top welterweights in the division. I don't know if he's as good as Jaron Ennis, but let the kid develop and we get to see. So I hope you tune in for this fight this weekend. You do have a couple of good prospects coming up, and you can't forget the lightweight champion, actually the flyweight championship fight happening this weekend with Navarrete in a title match. That's also going to be in action. I expect him to retain his title, and that's that. That's the episode for today. Excuse my voice. I'm not really feeling that well, and my nose is a little stuffy. But that's the episode for today. Follow on Instagram at Good Boxing Podcast. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, I would appreciate that. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Be well and have a very good day.